It's like everybody's Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me. Just a quick update on the police department's activities for the month. Now, as you can see, I've highlighted just a few of the significant calls for service that we've had. Officers have conducted a traffic stops on a traffic-related offense. 3 people in the vehicle, stolen firearm from Lynchburg, and a handgun was discovered. The officer also found some methamphetamine in his car as well. The driver was charged that night, and after consultation with the Commonwealth attorney, the other 2 people were charged as well for the drug possession. We also responded to a possible DUI. Able to conduct a vehicle stop after some probable cause, some field sobriety test, and made another DUI arrest. And during one of our extra patrols during the daytime, we found that one of the buildings at the cemetery was actually broken into again, and a couple of gas cans full of fuel had been stolen. Community engagement activities assisted the Methodist Church with their preschool field trip from Bowling Park back over to the church. We hosted the Cub Scouts and the police department. They were doing, I guess maybe they were forensic badges. They asked if we would come in and show them and demonstrate how we as officers collect forensic evidence in the field and submit it to the lab. Participated in a coffee with a cop event at the market for ACPD last month, and we had a meeting with. I had a meeting with the new pastor from the Scottsville Baptist Church. His name is Matthew Bowen, and you can see that our 3 auxiliary officers donated 71 hours of their time to the Scottsville Police Department this past month. You can see their savings compared to the 23-24 year. Department news. We completed our handgun qualifications for the year. Myself and Javier attended a VDOT meeting regarding the down streets being cleaned. On that, I'm sure Javier will talk a little bit more about that. We had our final stakeholders meeting last Friday for the 4th of July. I believe we have everything that we need for the 4th of July. Just a couple of things that I've got to mention to everyone. We did get notification that that $19,000 grant for our message board, cone trailer, phone had been approved. So as soon as those funds are released, we'll be able to move forward with the purchase of that equipment for the town. And then I also have submitted the 599 fund application to DCGS. That's in the amount of $16,800.
Will that be W-2 report? Will that be W-2 report?
We probably won't get them before next year.
Oh, okay.
I don't know when they'll probably release the monies for us to be able to make those expenditures. But hopefully we'll have them by next year.
Is it next calendar year or next fiscal year?
Fiscal year, that's when they release the funds, but I'm not exactly sure if it's July 1st. Sometimes those grants don't get released until like August, September, October. Which is amazing. But the stats are attached. Anyone has any questions?
The extra patrol, is that just you guys just doing an extra driver, like how you say, I found
So the extra patrols are based those on calls for service that we've done in the past, reports of crimes, the patrol is down in program sometimes and things like that.
I just noticed there were a lot more.
Yeah.
Is that relates to the new officer we have? That's a huge jump.
It's made a big
Nice.
difference
That's good.
having that position filled.
All eyes on the drill.
Made a big difference.
I have a question for you, Chief. We were at the Belgium I don't know, last week, whatnot, and it seemed to be like a bullet hole in the glass. Do you know anything about them?
That whole,
How old is that?
before my time down.
Really? It's been there a long time. Okay, I only noticed it and I was like, I don't pay attention, so I just
Where
wanted
was
to.
it?
Pardon?
Where was it?
Dollar General, right in the front window.
I never noticed.
I know, I didn't either. She's like,
I'll go there.
Mom. I was like,
It's been there for a while. I'll never fix it.
Any questions for chief? You not see the fire chief in the house, so we're going down to Mr. Walker from Chamber of Commerce. You want to step forward and give us a report on chamber activities?
Sure. This time of year, got a lot of people going a lot of different ways. This Wednesday is our, full membership chamber meeting, right here at, 6 o'clock. So, appreciate y'all allowing us to use the space here. And obviously, everybody in the room is, invited. Come meet some of the local business people that are coming out. Gonna go over a couple things in the meeting, a couple updates then, but, if you can make it, I'll just leave that up to what we'll go over then. We're gonna have two updates there. One is, Greg is gonna talk about Greg Grazio to talk about the, Scottsville Monthly Magazine and how he's going to proceed with that moving forward. And then, we recently found, y'all might have read in my, update email that we were a little lacking or left vulnerable in our insurance policy, and so I think we were, some of the other business owners might be, and so we're offering a quick 15-minute run through by David Carr of some of the most common pitfalls or most likely needs of small businesses for their insurance needs, and then have a quick question and answer session with him as well, with folks that show up. So those would be the highlights. Other than some updates. Then shortly after that, we got Bateau coming up 1 week from this Wednesday, and I believe the town has taken over most of that according to the update I got in the last chamber meeting. That doesn't seem like y'all know much about the chamber, but wanted to make sure while I'm here, if you think of it, let me know tonight or shoot me an email if there's anything that y'all need.
One of the things with this and with this, good to have some more advertising. Like, I mean, just for the town itself, I think we ought to have something on the bulletin board downstairs, something on the website, and maybe at the library or Maine or something.
The flyers have been made.
Oh, really? They haven't been posted? Okay, good.
They've been posted social network wise,
But not-
and they're getting printed.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously share them with the chamber social media. I'm not.
Did I not send?
I don't know.
I apologize.
I was lucky one to avoid Facebook my whole life, so I'm not starting now. So maybe it might be on there. And then, again, shortly after that, after Bateau Festival, Pollinator Days, the following Saturday, the 22nd. And so, as much of my dismay, as much as I tried to get Scan into the chamber unified in a single event, it somehow still managed to go into two separate events, two separate posters. The least I can do is try and get them advertised in the same breath. And just for your knowledge and your passing with the townsfolk, just try and get people to know that there's stuff going on in Scanland, stuff going on downtown, mostly at the same time. It's supposed to be a little warm that day, but pretty much, I think like yoga starts pretty early on Scanland around 8-ish. And then we're finishing up the last event of the day would be around 2 o'clock at the Scottsville Supply with the B class. So pretty much 8 to 2, there's something going on in town. Farmers market, some extra vendors, all that kind of good stuff. Then 4th of July coming up. Well, sorry I couldn't make the meeting there, Greg, but I think Kevin did fine filling in for me. We're going to be supplying some of your folks with waters that day. But you got my number, and if you can't find it or anything comes up, I'll get in touch with you. Sure. Because of the series of events coming up, we're not doing any of the smaller events for about the next 30 days or so, like the pop-ups in the stores or the cocktails and conversations. We got enough going on right now. I introduced y'all the last time I was here to the tree walk that I was anticipating on getting going. Got together with Scan, we've inventoried, or moved to from Scan, we've inventoried 60 trees. From the Scan land down some of the trails from the above the lake down to the trail behind the building we're in here. Coming down Main Street, Valley Street, some of the private homes, some of the trees up along behind, and some of the trees up in the shopping center up there. Got an estimate or a quote on the tags needed for that project, and we have a little bit more money, so we're going to probably do about 30-ish more trees. Mentioned that I would be asking for the town to provide the funding for the website, but after sitting through the budget meeting last week, I figured if there was ever a time to get this project done and go to bat for the town, but this was the time, so made a few phone calls and maybe called in a few favors to Bartlett, and for the time being, there's going to be no request for website management. Bartlett's going to cover that for the foreseeable future. That might change if we were to ever like start using the inventory to manage trees on a larger scale, but I think that's a long ways off. So for the time being, we're going to have a tree walk that's coming to Scottsville with just money being funded from the chamber and Steve. So that's the good news for the night.
That's great.
Tags, are they put in the ground or on the trees?
So they're going to be metal pegs. The goal is to have most of them on the trees. I have inventoried some of the smaller trees around town, and there's some trees where the trees on private property and don't want to have people going in, so I plan on putting them like at a sidewalk on a wooden post, but still something very easily.
So we're going to park.
There's a couple in Canal Basin there. Excuse me.
It's a back.
Some, yes, so a lot of the trails along Bailey, yep, are Victoria, and some in I guess Bruce, not Bruce Park, Doria Park, but yeah. And other than that, I did have one interesting phone call from Amazon, and they may be coming to some of our events coming up. Amazon is starting up a basically a rural initiative, I guess, a rural distribution initiative, and they're trying to make some local distribution centers out of people that already have a small business. As a reputation they have, Amazon has a reputation of taking money away from small businesses and people aren't going to shop. So an idea they have to get some money back to the hands of small businesses is to supplement with getting packages delivered to that small business, and then having that person be able to hire their own delegates to deliver some of these packages, but on a much smaller scale. So they want to get about 4 or 5 of those set up in order for it to be a viable initiative in a rural area. So they're looking to partner with 4 or 5 businesses in town to deliver about 20 to 40 packages a day. And yeah, it sounds pretty interesting anyway, but
Yeah.
see if it works out or not. I just figured I'd let y'all know in case you start to hear some wrong report. That's all I have for now.
Thank you.
ARB.
Alrighty. ARB under Josh is right to business. Pretty quick meetings, but we approved a roof remodel or replacement on Baines. Half of it is shingle right now, and the front half is this green standing seam roof. They want to do the whole thing metal, and we said, well, that's great. The other thing we went over was the free library post book swap. We approved that as well. We're waiting on town council to give us a location for it, but the design is approved. And then we went over the on one side. Do you want to talk about that, or should I?
Yeah, yeah, well, we can just, I think we can just say that it was approved, that what the ARB recommended was green signs on the houses. Vertical signs either to the left of the door or the right of the door. So that first responders would be given guidance to look at the front door. These are the historic properties in town. So that was the guidance that we were given. So I'm looking at signs now that might fit that bill, that maybe are more subdued green, like a hunter green instead of a bright, sort of garish green. I did tell them about the brown. They thought the green was more reflective, and that's what they recommended. So that's what was approved.
Are they gonna be on the house themselves?
Yes.
Only on the historic ones, the 30 that are historical buildings.
Yes, well, the ones that are within a certain number of feet from the road, yes. There
That
are
came
some-
with a recommendation. Part of what they wanted it on the house.
Okay.
Wouldn't
I thought, yeah, with the reflective, I thought it would be better to have them at the, like, at the roadside.
Not all of them, not all the houses have mailbox posts out front. So everybody's got a front door. And so that's not, a problem, right? They want one place.
And that makes perfect sense. I was just thinking more for the reflection, if they had the headlights shining on it, they would see it
Right.
better.
Right.
Whereas I feel like on the house, they could just go with the house number of house, but I know nothing about it, however the fire department wants to do it.
Well, and it's not fire, right? We have medical and we have,
We have an ordinance that says every house.
and a lot of houses don't have it. And
My house, so.
yeah, a lot of houses don't have it, and the ones like, and I'll go back to the example of Weed that have apartments in the back. Those apartments aren't labeled, I don't believe either. So all ADUs, right, if you have an in-law suite in it, should have its own number on the house. The apartments should each be numbered uniquely. The main property should be numbered. So all of that has to be put into.
About 10 years ago, Albemarle County came through and basically surveyed everything and assigned a number to it and put it in the computer so they can pull up 55 out of lane and have an aerial view of that where it is. So all that stuff is in their computer already. I'm kind of like Meredith, I thought the sign would be out towards the street area and not on somebody's house, and they have somebody to put a green sign on the front door. May not know what to do.
Yeah, I talked to somebody, they said, I got a nice sign already, what do I need another one? But I guess would have double, or they could take the other one down,
I
whatever.
think we're in a position to force anybody to put one of those signs on it.
Yeah.
House.
So it's gonna be more voluntary.
Well, I'm drafting an ordinance, so I'm gonna bring to council about that. I think they should be mandatory for public safety. I mean, the other counties do it, everybody has one. If council feels differently, we can override the ARB recommendation and put a post marker in the yards, but has to be at the same spot. I don't know, Chief, do you have any comments from your perspective on ease of finding properties and things like that? But
Certainly makes it easier on the house, but I'm not sure that I would want to go in like number.
well, and that's why I'm looking for like a historical hunter green instead of that bright green.
I think you hit on something. If you could have it on a post marker sitting to the left or to the right, let's say upstairs or to the door, towards the yard, probably wouldn't be people there. You can see it.
Council can,
I'm confused about what the point of the reflective on the house is. I
Well,
mean, unless they're walking up to it with a flashlight,
a lot of
they're looking this way, their lights are this way.
what you're doing is most roadways. You're going down the street or the road, and then unless you're going up a driveway, you're looking with a spotlight here or a flashlight here, trying to catch the numbers on mailboxes that are into the driveways, things like that, as you go by. The reflective helps you as the lights hit it.
I absolutely understand the importance of the reflective. I just feel like on the house, like if their house is set way back, if it's at the road and you've got headlights, And you see, you know, like, oh, there's 702 right there, you know, and then they know that it was
Let's take,
turned into it.
Confederate land. So you have a bunch of houses in a row, those, if you just had like a set of mailboxes, it would be difficult to find a house. I was at a residence today where there were 1, 2, 3, 4 houses down this road and one on this side. It just makes it harder.
Yeah.
But if it's at the house or at the very end of that driveway, as you're going in, it makes it a lot easier.
Do you use GPS or do you use both GPS and visual?
I just use the visual. Every once in a while.
Yeah. I know, I always use.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
The ordinance will be important too, as Bird Street comes into play and East Village, because we'd like to require that all new development, that the builders put these signs on, and we'd like to have them all look the same, et cetera. So I think the ordinance, it's not without precedent. There are other towns that have these ordinances. We know the neighboring counties have them mandatorily. So it's not unusual for us to require them.
The other ARB.
Yeah, I got a couple of things here. I'm gonna preface this with, I don't want to start a big conversation here, but just get it in your minds. Eileen and I met with Charlie Armstrong and had a pretty good conversation, I think, and kind of danced around each other for a little while, but by the end of it, I think what we came away with was we should sit down as a council. And maybe even have a public forum, but we should sit down as a council and decide what the number of houses that we think is appropriate. Or if by right is appropriate, but have something prepared before we really have a serious conversation with them.
Are you talking about the water house tower?
Yes.
Yeah. I hope there is something that.
And then we are meeting again on the 17th, and he has 3. I've heard from him, he has 3 ideas, kind of, as how it can play out. And we'll bring those back to you soon. One last thing, I've gotten like 4 complaints from just random people around town about this bush on the corner of Lucky's. Look, there's like a little red bush that people can't turn apparently.
Can't see around.
They don't feel they can turn safely there. Can we go ahead and just give?
Their property.
It's our property and we actually have the appropriate number here. We keep cutting, it's supposed to be a tree. We keep cutting it around 4th of July, so it keeps turning into a bush shape. If we left it alone for a little bit, it would grow out and out of line of sight. I talked with James about it, when I
I think
first.
it's great that I can print that question to all, because you're talking about as people are turning.
Yeah.
Right, coming down Main Street, turn right on 20 left to right. Yeah, I think it's got room to get skinny, like Kyrie said, get it down, it's a pretty one, get it down to a couple stems, right.
Let it grow.
Somebody tops it every year, and so it never gets any tighter, just keep getting tighter. So if we bring it in, encourage it to grow up, we might need to get a little shade on the street corner there, and be able to be underneath.
Sounds good to me, as long as we pass that on.
I'll get it, I'm about to do this week.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. I don't know if you talked about it, but there's been a lot of bushes that on Bird Street or Wheat Row. Can we ask them to clean that up? That for 4th of July, some of those are invasive species. There's a lapis there and a tree growing there, and I know they got a couple, but I think they could make that more attractive there. And we could still use it, but it just be nice for them to fix that up a little bit.
I'll add it to my notes.
Yeah.
The other question for Alex. Planning commission. I said it on the neighbors of the ambulance, town for that day, and I don't know if you had a chance to go, I know, if you didn't, Bob here, for sale, there wasn't a whole lot of business conducted that evening, more or less, we were talking about, Liz Knox, resigning from, and then looking for replacement.
Yes.
That was the basis of the whole deal, we were in, then Harold Fuller was here, and he brought up some things that were sort of relevant to me. And, Harold brings up things he had at this time. And, he had his say, and then, Javier followed up with him, the next day, same day.
No, I didn't get an opportunity yet.
Okay, it was, we get some thoughts on his mind, things that basically, we had taken care of months and years ago. He kind of had his, like to say it, he said it, so. That was the basis of the whole meeting, we were finished about 30 minutes.
Javier, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just gonna say, Javier, can you reiterate the criteria of the person who would be on the plan? That they have to be what?
They have to be a local resident, and then there's some language in our code that.
When you say local, you mean?
Within town limits.
So
Which limits the pool. Especially our volunteer community is much bigger than just the town limits. And then there's a section about in the town code that they should be qualified and bring a background that would benefit the planning commission. But other than that, there's no other certification requirements or anything.
We had one gentleman that Rick had in the ring and one possible, just moment.
Yeah, and then Friday evening, I believe I got another possible, the same. I'd like some more information on that big query.
One, definitely, I'd like to be on the planning commission, and two, we'd like some more information for it.
do we have information out there? Is it posted?
Yeah, it's posted on the website. Our town clerk posted it on Facebook. It's posted downstairs, and then I've made a copy of the town code, which shows some of the requirements. And through email, I kind of drafted something quickly. So if anybody comes to the mayor or I with questions, I can just pass along information on requirements.
We have had, Mr. Mayor, I want to clarify, since we had kind of a discussion about, is she off at the moment, or is she, what's their status?
So I forwarded an email where she said she would finish her term June 30th. And I think even the email said if nobody stepped up, she would want to reapply, I guess would be the word. But other than that, she's kind of ready to move on to some other, I guess, personal civic commitments,
Yeah,
from what she told me.
there's something else you want to work on, I can't remember what she said.
Scan.
Work with scan, yeah, she wants to work with scan.
And the only reason I mentioned that is other councilors back here, so if she's saying she would be finished by the 30th, maybe that's a window for people who are interested to, you know, for us to look at people through that time.
I recommended planning commission move their annual meeting to August, just anticipating a whole window, so they could get all their business done in one meeting. And then additionally, I want to loop back, most of the meeting was just a wrap up of the 2-1 meeting that Lincoln had with 2 council members to kind of just get it over the plate, the comp plan. And then I believe in a week or two, I don't have it in front of me, they'll do another 2-1 meeting.
What's that? What's a 2-1? Maybe
To do the transportation plan, because I've seen a lot more progress just doing these meeting in the back room and then just reporting back out than trying to wrap up the comprehensive plan in a public meeting. So they'll report back out, but that was half an hour meeting, pretty quick.
Lincoln went over some of the comp plan, final touches at the planning commission meeting that I attended, and I think you sent everybody a copy of it.
I just,
Well, Lincoln did.
you reminded me, let me send my missing council member.
It was just sort of comparing, the 2018 comp plan with this new one and, how we needed to change some terminology and the aspects of the 2018, where we kind of went overboard with some verbiage where we could be narrowed down. Put more simple terms together to understand. What's this 2024 that says? Okay, Mr. Marcy, you got anything for us?
Yeah, we don't have the final minutes of our last meeting. But I can kind of go over that a little bit. We talked about the maintenance a little bit, and one of the things about would be good to have a memo of understanding about from Scottsville and VDOT regarding the roads that are the state's responsibility versus the town responsibility. Some of them I don't even know which ones are state roads or town roads. So I think having a memo who's taking care of what roads. We talked about Bird Street development and getting a memo of understanding with Albemarle about zoning issues there. You know, there's a lot of issues still unresolved, and they recommended using their engineer and working with them to deal with the zoning issues there.
So then,
Albemarle. Albemarle Connect. They said one of the big issues is their sewage issue. They're going into another property, and they can't do that. So they got to have an easement to that property. That's regarding the Hertz property there, or Albemarle County's property there. It's for when they put their sewage and their pipes and things like that. So they have to have an agreement. They can't use somebody else's property to put their pipes through. That's one of the things, but there's some other things they get zoning, they gotta have, well, anyway, there's a lot, I don't want to go over them all, but there's several, but they recommended having an engineer. They were kind of astounded that we didn't have an engineer to oversee the development. So they said we could use one of theirs to come up with an understanding like they do with the police, that we can use some of their engineers, so, or an engineer to help with that.
Who's he talking about?
Yeah, Albemarle.
Is it the Albemarle or
Albemarle.
Albemarle doesn't do anything to sewer?
Right, no, but
It's their water and sewage now.
well, that was part of it. That was part of it. They have an engineer with sewer.
And then Albemarle provides us with engineering service
Yeah, they would do
by
that.
agreement,
Right,
all stormwater and also
Right.
everything.
right. Well, they were, when we went to that meeting, they were under this understanding that they thought we had our own.
Now, I don't know how that could.
Because they had-
I wasn't there, but I don't know how that could be. Do you?
Well, they had never been out to the development, to the First Street and seen it, and they said they would send somebody out to look at it. But yeah. But anyway, government service also recommended that it's a little bit about the budget. They've been doing a lot with the budget, and maybe getting that timeline to next year's budget to get that ahead of the game in January and move that along. They recommended we should go over the capital improvement plan. And I think they helped with that, or I think Scott's helped with that, but maybe the town council should look at the capital improvement plan. It's supposed to be a 5-year plan. They recommended that this is a big one. I think you might have saw this one up here. It's to contact Albemarle to see get the data for assessed value of the properties that are taxed. Because we've heard different things. So how much are how much money does Albemarle get from Scottsville? Some of the properties in town are nonprofit, but it would be good to know, which, how much money they're pulling in. If we ever, because there's talk of property tax, it'd be good to know what they actually get from us.
Yeah. So, back in March, when I shared a report with the town council specifically on revenue generation and real estate tax for brainstorming, for lack of a better term, the figures based off of the land book, I was using the 23 land book, get you in the ballpark. I asked the mayor to help me a little bit with some follow-up, but maybe until late summer, it can be kind of a conversation about what value we see, what value the town Scottsville is generating in general.
But
Yeah,
why
some
is
of
that
the-
helpful?
Some of the.
How will we use that?
Well, how much money that Albemarle is getting for
Well,
us.
I understand, but what are we gonna ask for that? I mean, we're going through an exercise to get the value or the amount of money that we pay in as.
I guess we could use it as
residents.
leverage to say like, we're paying this much money, are we getting our return from the county?
It just would be
If we're
nice, it would be
gonna-
nice to have a list of things that we expect to get
Yeah.
from that work, right? If I'm assuming Javier has to approach the county to get
Sure.
those numbers and everything else, what are we gonna do with it?
Well, I think it would also be valuable, you talked about having a Scottsville property tax. So if we add that on, we might be able to find out if it would be possible, if it would be worthwhile to even pursue that.
If we added it on to the Albemarle County tax?
Yeah.
An accurate measure.
It's called a piggyback tax.
Think of that, yeah.
That's how you tax if you decide to levy a personal property and real estate tax. You wouldn't go out and hire an assessment just because that would eat up all your revenue. You would piggyback on this county assessment's office and do a percentage.
I
of
see.
the
Okay,
county's-
that's what the piggyback reference is.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
That's the term, I think it's actually the term of art that they use.
Really, I mean, I thought you just go over the assessed value,
Well, you
right?
add,
10 cents on $100 of assessed value.
that's what you do. But it's piggybacking on the county's assessment.
Assessed value.
Rather, that's right.
Now,
Rather than,
but he's talking about the taxes that they collect from us. So that has then no relevance
I
to
thought you
the
were
town.
talking about the assessment.
No,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
maybe
that's what you said. You said the tax that we
Assess
pay.
value and also the amount too, it'd be good to know the amount. For us.
Well, I think
I think we need to know everything, I mean, as much as possible.
what I've learned tonight is that we don't necessarily know even what we're getting from the county,
Mhm.
you know,
In terms
as,
of services.
and it's in terms of services, and I'll
Or
use.
it's remember the money too, how much they get from us.
No, I understand that, but like. When we were, you know, you were saying that they're gonna provide us an engineer. It probably was our place when all of this started, when we were, before we voted on Birch Street, when we were still talking about it and whatever, to go to the county, because apparently we do have their engineering.
You do indeed, it's my
We could've- I
understanding,
mean,
you've had it for years.
Then we should have gone to Albemarle and said, hey, we need an engineer, but we didn't realize that we even had that
The
service.
trouble is you can't really tell the engineer what anything until you really have a site plan.
It's not
So-
Or whenever, you
Yeah.
know, whenever
That's
we
just
needed them,
happening
like,
now.
yeah, we didn't know that we needed it.
Just to say this, Council Hines, these guys are trying to reinvent the wheel, so a lot of that stuff is done.
No.
Yes,
This is
you are.
different. No,
No, it's not.
this is oversight, this is nothing to do with it.
Whatever you call it, whatever you want, but you guys are trying
It's
to
not
reinvent.
reinvent, well, it's just making sure things are done right. That was one of the things that came out with that one.
Whatever you say, Council.
No, it's not what I was saying, I'm trying to tell the truth.
I know you're trying.
Well, for clarity, for example, with stormwater management, their engineers and their community development department will help us out with the technicalities. And then I just review zoning.
Yeah.
And then, for example, building code, anything with building code, it ends up being the county and community development touching upon. And then my focus is, of course, just zoning as zoning administrator. So
So when the plans come in, they'll be submitted for stormwater management. I'll be able to submit those to the county engineer, appropriate county department to get an analysis of the plans to make sure that they do the stormwater component. And when the building plans come in, the same thing will be done for the building code to make sure it's in compliance. And then the comments will be received and then RDA will react off of that.
So let me ask this, just so I know if I understood what you were saying properly. They have already laid all the stormwater and sewer and everything else, but they leave it on county property.
so there.
They started, they haven't done that yet, but they haven't get an easement to where they're gonna lay it before they do that. And that hasn't been done yet.
Oh,
So then-
okay, so they're not really doing anything wrong. They're
No,
just not
no.
doing it as quickly.
Well, they haven't got some commissions, a couple of things yet, but part of the thing is, what we met with them is, we haven't had a development in this town, we probably haven't had an engineer work with the development in the town ever. So part of this learning, so how they ever learn this, and if we would be in coordination with that a little bit, that's part of it.
Well, and I think it's good to understand, what we're paying, things like that. But I think we've talked about this before. And I think Mr. Bowling, I think it was you who said, be careful when you ask some of these questions. Because the answers that come back, you're sort of shining a flashlight maybe in areas that you don't want shine. So think we
Maybe
just have to
getting
be,
more services.
exactly, we have to be circumspect about what we're asking for rather than just,
If you had to pay for the stormwater engineer, you would have by cut by half your police department.
correct.
Mr. Bowling, just to ask you this question, but maybe make this quicker. When the process happened and we allowed the 36 houses to move forward, at that point, when the town did that, the permits, the processes, the procedures that the company has to go through are all processes that are normal processes through both the town, the county, the state, the federal government, all those things. There's a whole
Exactly.
sequence of processes. It's
First
not
you have the zoning, and then you have then once the zoning is approved, then you go out, hire engineers, private engineers to do plans.
and
Nothing
efforts,
can happen until they're done.
and efforts by these guys to try to relitigate it are whatever makes you happy, comprehensive, but I would say this process that we've done in good faith as a town is all happening. It will happen with the county, it will happen with the state, it will happen. It will happen because that whole process is done so that we as a town can do those things. And in good faith, each one of those things will find things that maybe something needs to be changed or some aspect of it needs some other inspection, but thankfully, I'm not the builder, they're the ones going through all those processes, but the effort to try to undermine it, I don't think.
No, never mind, it's just some oversight that we don't know much about, and then we're gonna get some assistance from them, that's all. Just to do it the right way.
Call it what you like.
But what I'm hearing him say is that this is part of a normal process and it will get done by the county. So I think his question is, if I understand you, is why the additional oversight?
Sure.
Whether you agree or not, that's the summary I think that I'm hearing.
Last time Mr. Armstrong was here, he pointed out that everything that they have done so far has been submitted to proper county authorities for review and changes if necessary. And that they hope to get started by the end of the summer. So it's being done, it's being looked at by professional engineers on the county level. And if there's any problems, then they go back to Armstrong and say you need to correct this.
That's right.
So anything else on them?
Let's see, another action that recommended is, with the Buckingham property, to consider hiring a forester to develop a plan for that. One of the things that came up was about, some of the trees should be thinned out to make it worthwhile, they're more valuable in several years, and I guess that was recommended a while back. So that was one of the recommendations. And the final recommendation they made is to it's kind of doing this already, to have the government service have a subcommittee with, continued financial review, to help with the budgets and spending and procuring, and I think we're doing that somewhat already. And I know George Bruin's going to be meeting with Javier and Matt a little bit about some of the
I thought
farmers
we
market and
talked
stuff
about
like
this so many times, and we decided that we don't need a financial oversight.
Right.
I mean, I feel like it's come up a whole bunch of times, and
It keeps
we
coming up.
universally kept saying
No.
that it's our job to do that,
We don't need a subcommittee to do that. Javier does that,
Yeah.
nobody does that. It's part of their job to get paid to do that.
Right.
We don't need,
Can we put this to rest once
Wait,
and
wait,
for all? Because
hold
we
on.
don't want
Really?
extra, this gives extra work for the town staff when we have two teams of people, town council and some subcommittee that is going for information that is not trained on this stuff. I have full faith in town staff and what they're doing. I think they've been doing a great job providing transparency to this council. I think Meredith has made a very good point over and over again about the budget being this council's job, of which I absolutely agree. And we keep coming up to this. Let's not drag it up anymore. Can we close out? We don't want any more budget oversight. Please.
This last month or two, Melly asked that we help her with the plan versus action when we came up. and we looked at it with her and helped her with that.
That's one
And-
thing
and-
for
and-
help that she requests,
No,
Bill. It's
that's-
another
yeah.
thing to say, we're going to be an oversight committee.
Right.
Council has not asked for oversight on
We
this.
still don't have the actual 2023 last.
Yeah, because she's busy and because we don't want to hire another person in the office to do minutes and website updates and whatever stuff, that she hasn't gotten to that.
Well,
So
no, I
what
think
else
it's,
can we
well, I
expect?
do think it's, we're doing.
Somebody overseeing her is not going to make her move any
No,
faster.
I'm not supposed to say assisting her.
You said oversight.
Okay.
Now you're talking
Okay,
assisting,
okay.
that is something she requested help with, that's fine.
Okay.
What you're talking about is oversight, of which I'm saying is unnecessary. And I'd like to close out that discussion.
Assistant, wrong word, assistant.
If government services is asked by town staff to give them assistance, I am fine with them. But I am not fine with unrequested oversight for information and things that is just going to add work to town staff that has no value. That's my comment.
If I can say something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I keep on not flying all this time.
Yeah, you were there.
The committee can make a recommendation, council, motion to be made, we can vote on it, put it into, okay, that takes care of that. I haven't really seen though, in all the financials, the exact amount of money we spent last year. There were projections, but there's no exact amount. And I just find it hard to make a budget without knowing what we spent the year before. So that would be nice. And then the last thing, I had a citizen come to me and made a comment about some damage to the sidewalk, the brick especially near the canal where the gas company came in.
I know which citizen.
And, he seemed to think they were repair it since they tore it up. Along those same lines, I'm talking about lines, it looks like the third grade got the chalk and went through town.
Mhm.
The sidewalks look terrible, especially with the fourth coming up. I mean, we've got yellow and green lines everywhere. Are they through with them? And who's gonna clean them up?
So
That's my question.
for the canal basin, those have been there, I don't remember how long.
So
Let me
it's
get
been-
creative.
it's been neglected for a long time, in other words.
Let me get creative with figuring out, because the only thing I could imagine was to install the gas line and then it just got left there. That makes sense?
Well, as long as they were put back properly, that would make sense.
Is it
Not the
a
bricks,
risk?
but the spray paint. The
Well,
bricks, yes, I
crazy.
agree with.
Well, maybe they still got some use for the markings, I don't know.
Is it a risk, Eddie, for people walking, the tripping hazard or something? Because that would be,
I haven't seen it.
okay, because that would be additional, like, call them up and say, hey, you got a liability here.
Everybody seems to think it's a flower bed. It looks like a flower bed, so if anything, it kind of helps with it not being a tripping hazard. To the point, it's been on my radar, and I was gonna talk to George from Government Service to get help on some bids, because I need to also find the correct brick for it, because you can use Virginia.
I agree, if the gas company tore
They're
it out,
damaged,
they
they
should,
could fix it.
they should fix it.
Yeah.
So why didn't you ask the gas company to fix it? What's the problem?
Haven't had time.
Okay.
And would a power washer take up the spray paint? Because I'll volunteer, I love the power washer.
Yeah.
But I don't know that a power washer would take up spray
I'd
paint.
hate to, to tell past maintenance to go out there and do it. And they
And
still,
then they do it
they still
again.
need
spray
it.
paint.
Just no propane torches.
Good recommendation.
If we check on that, that'd be nice, for.
I was gonna say, just Javier, just following up on what Councilman said, the bricks, that does sound important for us to express. Maybe the council's concern that the damage was done. I mean, more than just saying it can be asked, I think there would be a general agreement
Yeah.
here that the council, following up on what Councilman said, that we express our concern and our expectation that that is repaired.
And if you just tell them that, they'll come and fix it.
We do have an agreement with Columbia Gas.
Yeah.
Fixing things.
And they will do it. You just have to let them know.
be the squeaky wheel.
Let's move on to emergency preparedness. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the good news is we got the grant award for the E911. So, yeah. So we got a partial grant, I should say. We submitted for $8,000 and we were awarded $5,000. So we're originally hoping to get signs for the entire town to cover them. So this is why we go back to the historic properties in town, to at least start there and see if we can get all the historic properties in town marked correctly. And then go from there next phase out to the other properties. So they're working on, between Jack and Javier, working on getting that money in. We've got some volunteers who will put the new signs up for people who can't or don't want to put them up for themselves, so that all the properties will be marked. And we're working on the details on the costing and things like that. ARB just graciously did an inventory of historic properties in town. So we'll have a good inventory list of those, and then we can go and decide how to go about marking those. I have been looking at what I think might be attractive green signs for the properties that I'll bring back to council probably next month. As well as a draft of the ordinance for everyone to consider adopting, to make it mandatory so that moving forward, we're ensured that all properties have the 911 marker, and we'll give them something like a year to comply so that it's not like immediate.
What, you were saying that there were other towns and counties with ordinances in place already
Yeah.
requiring it. Could you tell me a couple of those? Because I'm just curious, I just want to drive around and see what they,
Buckingham,
Buckingham,
Louisiana,
okay, well then.
just drive the corner. And in fact, those counties, and I think I've mentioned this before, they actually purchased them for the residents and put them up for them. They went through a whole system. They had an E911 coordinator in Buckingham, I know, because they came out and had to remark some properties because they found a few properties with the same address. And so they had to straighten some of those things out, and they put up the E911 signs for them, as did Fluvanna, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to try to do the same thing in town for our residents and businesses, but with volunteer labor instead of town money. Okay, so there's that. Ordinance, like I said, I will bring you the draft next month of that for you to weigh in on. Jack has put together, if you look at the back of this, the Staples packet, Jack has put together a briefing for a request from the town for a group of community volunteers who are trained to assist with emergency disasters when it's required. So for example, when we had the ice storm and a group of volunteers came in to help the town, that would be an example of where a CERT team would be helpful. So CERT staff are trained to handle these types of things. Police or fire department could call upon the CERT team when the necessity would arise. They would be accountable to the town for that. The thing that he's asking for is to appoint Javier or the chief of police or fire as the liaison to the CERT team of volunteers to support the program through advocacy, and to potentially appoint members to be on the CERT team to be volunteers in the event of an emergency. So that's the proposal. This comes from his nonprofit. So it's a request from the town, mostly for support and advocacy, not financial at this point. Any questions?
Chief Jenkins, about what Albemarle County has a CERT team that service us down here, so.
Let Chief Jenkins answer, and then we'll.
Yeah, that's certainly because it is not, it's, but
That showed up at my neighbor's house. That was a sort of team that showed up at my neighbor's house that day. Yeah.
That was a SWAT team, wasn't it?
You told me, there's a different spot.
Store.
My neighbor was having an issue and somebody made a phone call.
Heart team. Different, that was a mental health team of people that went up to deal with that. A CERT team is volunteers that can help traffic direction, help with cleanup, street cleanup, things like that. The one that the county has based out of the 911 center, I talked to them over there probably 6 months or so ago, and that team was not, I think, did you talk to John Brandy at some point? That's what people were asking about that. John Brandy, that team has been defunct for a little bit.
Right.
They do have plans to finalize the team, but no plans. That's the way I remember it, right?
Yeah.
We had a good turnout, I'd say of around 30 people in 2019 at the library. And, Albemarle County sent their sort of, I'll call it a sort of administrator, for lack of a better term, down. She introduced herself as a relatively new position at the time, I think, where she had replaced someone. And she was going to go in and get a third team in Scottsville with proper training and have that be active. COVID hit and the whole thing got, so probably
Where it's,
Albemarle was probably hit the dust about the same time as it is.
Yeah. Jack, do you want to say something else quickly?
Yeah, so I did hire a regional emergency manager that oversees Charlottesville, UVA, Albemarle County. And they have asked me to be on that committee for support for down here. And due to the fact that I've completed most of the training, I have one more class left to be a instructor. And so we be able to get our foot in the door with this program and help get the word out of Scottsville on map with having issues in past Albemarle County and all that stuff. So that's why I decided to come up.
Yeah, I think there's having a formalized CERT team here in town would give the town oversight. And also would have a closer connection with calling out volunteers and volunteers are necessary. So I view this personally as a good thing. And so we're requesting your support for them.
I'd like to point out as town administrator, I think that in general, town council with me should be considering also always having a ready volunteer force for evacuations. We aren't really set up right now in the future to kind of effectively do those. The police department and the fire department are either busy addressing something and then also running the pumps. We had a gap that we discussed during updating our emergency all hazards plan. And this might be a conduit to start getting more volunteerism in the town, especially for things like that. There might be another solution, but it's just a reality that, or it's an assessment I have from reviewing our all hazards report as kind of a gap.
There's no stress in the town, right?
No.
Mind asking just one question about that. Worst case scenario, we were actually considering, I can't remember how many years ago it was when the hurricane veered and pretty much hammered North Carolina instead of here. But that was the kind of hurricane that had the power behind it that, I don't know if it would have flooded the channel, but it was changing. When we get to that kind of stuff, how does it work in terms of state police are coming here or what's happening when the one thing, if a major hurricane comes through here, it's no secret that probably in the future there'll be another major hurricane that will touch the level. And so how would that work? I know we have a clean emergency protocol, but I'm more asking how would law enforcement or others be notified or how they would be brought in to evacuate them?
So in conjunction with Javier and the mayor and probably council would be in the loop, but I'd start making phone calls to the county police department for resources down here. And then if that gets overwhelmed, maybe Buckingham, throughout county, then the state police, things like that, all the law. It's almost reaching out to the superintendent, of the state police, our contacts that we're in. First, we have to do the assessment, what do we, how many do we need? It's gonna be over a life period of time, I can break up shifts and stuff like that.
The reason I asked again, this, I was having a conversation with Dan that was here just yesterday in the Louisiana, they kept it 30 miles inland from hurricanes. Now explaining to them that what tends to happen in this area is the hurricane, the leftover tropical force, so tropical storm that is dropping enormous amounts of fluid and those blood bags, Neil and others, so that come and inundate the town again. I think it's reasonable to say people face that again. In those moments, whether the levee holds or not, we're going to want to kind of evaluate this. So there's more. When we do have a ton of evacuation plan, and citizens can see what we have, look at the evacuation plan, what happens. But as I was going through that, I realized even in my tenure on the town council, that was very real. That if it did not convert, we would have had.
I think the police department's gonna work with fire department, they're gonna the evacuation efforts. We're gonna help all of them with that. We're gonna make sure the town stays safe, and we're gonna help coordinate. You know, the fire department, and we'll fill in how we can, maybe make notifications, help transport people, those kind of things. But your question was, is how do we get the law enforcement resource? It's just a matter of making a blast need to the police departments.
Well, I imagine it would be dependent on how widespread some incident like that, because they may be dealing with their own localities and can't respond to that, right? And so if you think about, at least I think about a search team to help manage traffic, help with debris cleanup, help with, you know, the things that aren't, that you don't want your first responders necessarily being burdened with during a crisis like that.
And I envision a CERT team, you know, also helping us with special events. If we need. Let's think about, let's say one day down the road, 20 years from now, the sheriff's office doesn't have a reserve force anymore. How can we man all of these intersections for that 4th of July, party, and things like that? A CERT team that's trained in traffic control would be great for something like that. I don't know if a CERT team volunteers that if it's an active hurricane, I would thrust them in the middle of something like that. Probably more active effect, rather than clean up and recovery. That's what they will be more. helping us with those.
So do we need a vote on this, I'm assuming, or no? Can Jack move forward? Can we appoint Javier or
What
Chief
is,
Jenkins?
what is a new committee, be the liaison rather than a Javier?
Actually, because I have to, in order to register FEMA, I have to have a government or a public safety official oversee everything. And I have to be that, supposed to be a conflict of interest. So that's why I proposed this to town council for some government agency liaison to oversee the operations of the CERT down here.
It also helps with grants.
Yeah, help with grants,
You have-
get more parents funding, we
I
can.
think with the recommending either town administrator.
Oh, really? Well, you got, well, yeah, a lot of complaints, that's not. What other communities do this? Which other communities do this?
I don't know about the local, do you know the local ones that have us there?
Amaro is working on.
Oh, we just talked about Albemarle,
I know
that's
that
one, but it's fine.
BBC has one, I know that Chesterfield, I talked to Chesterfield has one, Hanover has one, a bunch of other people around the state have them.
I don't know about Buckingham.
I don't know about Indiana doesn't have.
So we can continue to think about that and then we'll evaluate it, we'll go down the line and then we can take a vote on it at council session, July, August, Whatever we get around here. Any parks and recreation committee notes?
We did meet, but we don't have the exact minutes yet, but we're pretty much on a roll there. We got all the signs, the maps, we got the rules on the kiosks, and we're gonna get some new sets, maps, larger maps made. And we saved the town a lot of money. We instead of replacing a ramp at the dock, we're gonna get there's a step there that comes down, and we got some large rubber ramps that can be connected to it and float with them. So so the ramp will be taken care of. So most of and we got the signs ordered for there's going to be one near the Maytag. And so most of the things we wanted to do, we've done this year. Next year, maybe work on the road.
Any questions?
That's great.
Events committee.
We have been very, very busy. Unfortunately, I lost the vendor today for that tow festival. It was gonna be a good vendor, but she texted me today and just said she wasn't gonna be prepared, and just not have enough stuff in time for it. Which is a shame, because this vendor was a good vendor. It's kind of what made me realize we should go out and just get a whole bunch of vendors, but so we're still working on vendors for that, and I know we're coming under the wire for it, but
I mean, that's at the farmer's market on Saturday that you could.
well, I asked Debbie Smith to get me the list of vendors that she's got set up for 4th of July. And I was just gonna contact all of them if they're doing 4th of July, and want to do that tow as well, but I have not heard back yet. Or I did hear back, but she didn't have the list all together yet. So I'm still working on that, and even if it's only 9 or 10 vendors, we have 2 bands lined up. We've got the National Wild. Who's coming?
Department of Wildlife Department of Wildlife Resources.
DWR, yeah, whatever it is. They're gonna come set up a table and give presentations about the wildlife in and around the James, and we've got a bunch of food trucks set up, so.
Yeah, Canal Society is gonna have reenactment.
There's gonna be a historic reenactment with the Virginia Navigation and Canal Society down at the river, so that'll be very cool.
Music.
We got 2 great bands.
I'm putting together a hodgepodge of people, but we're gonna play with people anyways. We'll
Next week.
And then we have Apple Mountain Boys from 4 to 6.
They always say.
That's now they subscribe. 4th of July.
So if we have any rain.
Maybe 5. Regular romantics. Yeah, I know, I'm so excited. I had tried different things, like going through their website and stuff, and I just hadn't heard anything back. So I decided to be bold, and I just called Red on his cell phone, and I'm very excited. So we have White Knuckles playing from 1:30 to 3 on 4th of July. We have Carter Freeman from 3 to 6, and then Red and the Romantics from 6 to 9, leading right to the fireworks. Anybody knows any food trucks? That's what we're lacking still. We're having a hard time. We want to have at least 10 food trucks on 4th of July, so it's not a number more to get.
You should talk to people that own Muddy Falls. Winery. Yeah. I went out there the other day and they had a bunch of art vendors and a bunch of food trucks.
Okay, she's on my,
She's in the chamber.
yeah, she's also on the committee, so yeah, she's helping already look at food trucks for us. So the music, so 4th of July, pretty much the lineup is gonna be from 8 until 1. There's gonna be craft vendors at the farmer's market. At 9, the parade starts. We have from 2 until 6, A bunch of kids crafts and face painting and all the food trucks are gonna start. There's also from noon to 5 a flea market down by Canal Bay Square. And then the live music. Basically, you could come out at 8 o'clock in the morning on 4th of July and go home after fireworks. It is like. It will be on the, like, in the fields.
Okay.
Sorry,
Like used to.
yeah,
Last year
we're gonna get a
was-
portable
that's
stage
great. I
out on,
like
out
that.
on.
Yeah, because that's such a nice place to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sit down. on.
So people can,
Yeah.
stake out their
That's great.
spot for the fireworks and sit and listen to the music and then just not even have to move for the fireworks. So, very excited about 4th of July. You've got you've got an event in August coming up that you still need to get working on, and then 2 in September. So, yeah, busy with the next week.
Any questions for? Treasurer's report.
Yeah, so I'll start off with portion of my treasurer's report that was written into the staff minutes. So as mentioned previously, Melanie is working on, she's unavailable today, she's on sick leave for her shoulder. But she's been working last week on catching up on the last few months of financial statements. So I will have those on schedule for June 17th. And then Melanie was also working at the direction of council to see if there's some kind of executive brief version of the financial statement that could be presented to town council for input. So something memo-like in the same way you'd have a written memo, or the same function. Beyond that, we discussed in May 20th, our last regular session meeting, about capital work. So what I provided on our town administrator report is updates on completed work. Councilor Heisen touched upon some of it because I'm grateful for the assistance of the Parks and Rec Committee with finding quotes and then following up. I have also in the report work that is in progress, and then most interestingly, if that's a word, delayed to next fiscal year. The VDOT program they use to place signs on VDOT rights of way, which is VAIDSP. I communicated with them the same day, the 20th, over email, and they stated that even if we were to state our approval for, this is that Van Cleef sign on Valley Street we discussed about a month ago. It would take 3 to 4 months. So what I've done is adjusted, what I've shared out as adjustment. One of the adjustments that is highlighted is moving that expense into next fiscal year to wrap up that sign. Beyond that, I think I wrote down here, since we're coming under on some capital work for Canal Basin, I wanted to tomorrow explore replacing the possible bricks in front of Canal Basin Square. So I'll have a meeting with Goodwin to give me a little bit of advice on that. And as I pointed out here, it was due to brick removal from a sidewalk or from a gas line. Beyond that, the other big piece I want to touch upon is an update on the Scottsville Fire Department pass-through grant. So as discussed last month, we found that we need to do some catch up on disbursement of the pass-through grant. We spoke since last update with the accountant for the Scottsville Fire Department, and they confirmed that fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2020, 2022 to 2023 were additionally due on top of our current year, which is 23-24. That was reported out last month, but the most important thing that I wanted to update council with is that we are caught up for this fiscal year. So we've passed along that disbursement of grant money. And then I have adjusted our accounting to after July 1st, as part of the next year's budget, have the total that's due, that's 30,000, coincide with wrapping up the 2023 police vehicle project. So essentially I'm waiting for the grant money to come in and then do it at the same time.
We're gonna get this, adopted 23 to actual, is that gonna?
Yeah, so I was gonna send an email back. I've already kind of explained that
Yeah.
the frustration I have is that, yeah, so I'm gonna send an email and see when that Melanie's back. If we could sit with the accountant and look over our journal entries, because the accountant seems to think it's, journal adjustments they recommended that has the different amount change, but I was gonna send out an email tomorrow and update everyone and get into the details, since that feels pressing.
I have a question about the
Mhm.
fire department grill. And forgive me if this was answered last month when we talked about it. If it was, I didn't understand. So that money that we haven't been giving them,
Mhm.
where has it been?
When we had all that ARPA money, I'm assuming it got lost in that.
And spent on
No,
something else? So it's still sitting there someplace, we just didn't see it.
It's there.
It's there.
Trying to
Okay,
find out
that's-
where it is.
Yeah, where is there? How did we not see it? sitting
What I couldn't understand is why the accountant didn't. fill out.
That's right, the auditor should.
Yeah,
have like that.
because that's what they're.
Okay.
So.
I can't
So we don't
understand
have to come up with this money. It's there, it exists, we
It's a good
just
problem.
never passed it on.
I can't understand the fire department saying, where's
We
my
didn't get the
$20,000?
money.
I would have been the first one.
Somebody was handing you $20,000 a year and it didn't come in one year, we can say.
Yeah, okay.
so your staff can make a mistake, but what's alarming is 2 years, our auditors are not catching it. And that's why I brought it up last month, that I feel like we should, as a council, your staff recommended, your town administrator recommendations, seriously considering looking at other auditors. You can't really, you're running in the dark, and then we have a case of 2 years in a row, the audits coming in, and then us having to back into the numbers, and then it not being, it's not easy to work with them. They seem very busy, so even following up on the small details we've had. But it's are you getting your money's worth kind of question
Yeah,
now.
well, we spend more time checking their numbers, right? And it seems
should be
like
the-
they are checking our numbers.
And then I think Meredith hit upon an important point. As much as we have the money, we also need to appropriate the money. So I couldn't even disperse that money this year without either, previously I was considering including it in our reappropriation for this year, but now as you can see in the budget that I've highlighted, I've moved it over to the next year. But it's a lot of moving parts on 45,000.
And I still think that we should have some visibility into that organization. Like that they should be at the table here.
I would say the same thing. I have no idea who these people are, other than the chief that comes in.
And if we're expending resources at the town level to get them money for these pass-through grants, and they're taking advantage of the fact that they're going through a town entity, a government entity, which does help for grants and sometimes is required for grants, then I think they owe the town some kind of accountability for what they're doing with the money, what they're doing in general, who they are.
Does anybody here know Mr. Peyton Towns? Know Mr. Towns? He's supposedly the president of the board of fire, according to their website. And we need to have somebody, that's more serious. We did some research on it independently, and found out we had come to the same conclusion, and that what we found was a slight trust charitable organizations, and said that they were 503c4, and they had lost that designation because they hadn't been filing these 990 tax forms for several years, so they lost that. And then the next thing we found was that they were back to a 503(c), C3. So we don't know what they are. They don't seem to have any responsibility to anybody other than themselves.
And
The town of Scottsville that actually applied for the charter back in, what, 1945? I mean, the fire department just didn't appear.
Right.
It was done through the town.
Right.
So maybe we have a dog in the fight somewhere, I don't know, but they're just notoriously, want, quiet and want to remain autonomous for some reason. And the time's gonna come when they may ask us for a little help, having gone through the rescue squad takeover like we did, the very same thing. It's probably gonna happen here.
Right.
Um,
And I think there should be some accountability. I have, in the research that we did, one thing that we found is sometimes what'll happen is at least they will have a member of the town on their board of directors, so that they get invited to meetings and things like that, and they keep in touch through that relationship. But we have no relationship like that, and there seems to be no accountability for this organization to the town. Again, I have no problem with the way they're serving the town,
Robert, we,
but I do believe that they should come to the table.
I wonder if it would be worth suggesting or requesting, I guess would be a better term. We have liaisons for all ARB, planning commission, everything else. Why not ask if the council member could attend their board meetings?
I don't think they're having board meetings.
They might start having board meetings if we go to them and request that a council member start attending the board meeting.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's so problematic. I mean, listen, nobody wants to disrupt their operations in any way, but I think they should have some accountability at the town, right?
Just like Frank said, if they came to a point where they're going to do something for us, we don't know who's talking.
Right.
We're glad to help them where we can.
I know we always try to get, police, fire and rescue here. And when we had the public safety committee back a few years ago, police and fire showed up regularly. And rescue, when I was on, it, showed up, then when we got disbanded in Avalon County, from sometimes, getting information out of them is hard too, so.
But we'll keep working on that and see if we can't get somebody from the fire department to come to a meeting at some point in time.
But I think, well, they've been invited to several meetings. This one, they've been invited to EPC. They don't show up. I have gone to visit them personally. I know others have gone to visit them personally. And there's no, it's all outreach and it's not coming back. But I think Eddie would bring up a really good point. Maybe we can chase down how that charter was formed. And maybe there's some legal requirement that we can pursue and that will get them to the table.
Well, there's certainly, if you're gonna give them $40,000, that's an easy way to get them to come here.
That's the way I feel, Mr. Bowling.
Make a whole lot of difference.
We'll have to tell you.
I don't even know that.
Well, I would just ask them, send them a note and say, hey, if you want to come over here,
Come
here.
pick up your
Yeah,
check.
and they do have a charter, as you point out, and if they're in good standing, they're registered with the FCC, you can get a copy of the charter, and it's called the Articles of Incorporation. And, it's.
Well, that should be published, right? Because they did from a 501c through 4 to a 501.
Well, yeah, but this is just corporate stuff. It's regulated by the state corporation commission. That's what actually I'm just looking up this now and see if I can find it.
Okay,
But,
yeah, all of that should be filed. I don't find it on their website. I don't think. It should all be public. It should be public information.
well, it is all public information.
Just a matter of where it is.
Well, I know where it is. It's in the state corporation commission's, records.
I'm curious what kind of liability if they lost their, you said they're a 501c3 now, what were they previously?
Before.
And according to the website, we both kind of hit on independently, it said that they did not file proper tax returns for several years. Not that.
This might not be something we want to stir up. I mean, maybe we can send someone over and talk to them before we.
Well, there could be a liability for the town
I'm
in
just
this
wondering,
too. We have to be careful.
that's what my concern is. If they are not even technically what they purport to be, God forbid, something is done improper. You know, my house is
Well,
burning
even if there's a
down,
perception of that, even if it hasn't.
something is done improperly, you know, like where does the liability fall? I mean, we're funding them $20,000 a year, and we don't even know what kind of organization they are, you know, I just.
Yeah.
And you also have an
It could be a
official,
big deal.
you also have an official contact with, because, with your web, I call it levy master,
Yes.
who is also a member of the volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
But he's also an official with the town of sorts. He's not a levy superintendent, and he's the one that coordinates the exercises that they have regularly at mine. Yes, I think they do, yeah.
A couple times a year.
And so he's also the person that's responsible for calling out these folks when you have serious rain, to man the pumps and make sure everything works like it's supposed to.
But this is the kind of information we'd like, right? Are you holding an exercise this year?
Well,
When is it?
He recently came and talked about that, by recent, I think in the last year or so. I think I was here when he came and talked about it a little bit.
That fall,
Yeah,
superintendent,
yeah.
yeah, but I think it's more than reasonable to, we're approaching a year.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Well, and have a regular status. Chief Jenkins comes and gives us the briefing. I think just to have a regular status is not asking too much.
I'll hollow the fence, I'll see somebody.
Thank you.
Pardon?
Find out if they're moving.
Well,
Why aren't their taxes being filed properly? Why aren't they having?
the documentation I saw seems to indicate that their documentation was up to date on 501c3 as of 2023. So I think they're good. But it was prior years through the 501c4. The difference being that with a C3, you can get donations, but with a C4, you cannot solicit donations, is my understanding.
Yeah, but you're still, if you give to one or the other, you still get your care, get your tax exemption. You can get-
Yes,
And that's the principal benefit of being C3 or C4.
right.
I'll find out whether the registry.
That would be great.
See.
Mr. Bowman, thank you.
That's a different legal analysis than the tax side of things,
Right.
which is all the C3, C4 gains.
Okay. Any other questions for Javier? I'll give you a quick overview of our last couple of weeks. After our last meeting, of the council, I had a Boys and Girls Club advisory committee. No, this was a planning commission committee meeting for their 10th birthday coming from June 21st. The clock says the pain will be here. Anybody wants to go, it's open to the public.
I thought it was Friday. I thought it was 17.
Friday, the 21st, for the Boys and Girls Club, birthday. Okay. Went to the VFW Memorial Service for 26th of May. It was for Memorial Day service they have every year. Suggested to them that they advertise it more because the crowds are getting smaller and not everybody knows it's going to happen again. Also met the new pastor of Good Baptist Church, chat with him. Chief and I met on a couple of different occasions to talk about things, and last weekend before this immediately past weekend, I went up to Yancey. They had a fundraiser for their food pantry. They had a car show and they raised $1,700 on Saturday for that.
Good for them. They run a good organization.
Yeah, I love Yancy. They got some good
Ed
stuff
Brooks
on.
did a great job.
He did.
As I mentioned, went to the planning commission for Dan, chamber board meeting, had a regular Boys and Girls Club advisory committee meeting in this time frame, and that was, met with Javier over half a dozen more times since the last council meeting and working on the budget. And I have talked to the new owner of the, I'm still going to builder down here, Mr. Patel. He wants to have an official opening ceremony and we'll get to join the Chamber of Commerce at the same time. So that's everything I've been doing in the last couple of weeks that I can remember. Of course, we lost two good citizens in the last couple of weeks. Rodney with his traffic accident. Went to his memorial service this past Friday, and there were about 150 people there at the big church in Livingston. And some of you knew Agnes Johnson. Agnes is a fixture in the community. She was almost 95. She passed away a couple of weeks ago too, and her service is also went flat. So, two good friends. Mr. Bowling, you got anything for us?
Showing latest information is the Scottsville Volunteer Fire Department. It does exist. It's in legal existence with the State Corporation Commission as of this year. And I can tell you who the directors are and officers. You probably know a lot.
Does it list Mr. Peyton Townsend?
Peyton Townsend is president, Sid Pugh is treasurer, and officers are Timothy Carr, Dwayne Carr, Ronnie Dudley, Julie Pierce, Michael Grandstaff, Timothy Sursley, Randy Woodson, Nick Kirby, Neil Pierce, Scott Carr, and Joseph Plum.
I asked Wayne after this topic came up a couple of meetings ago, who was in charge of their board. He had no clue.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
yeah.
Doesn't
And
know.
if you go back about 10 or 15 years, you'll see Mr. Peyton Townsend was chairman of the board then.
Yeah. Well, you can-
We don't know how else.
And ask him to give me a call sometime to see him. I know, don't go ask out of the way to get hold of him, but if you happen to pass, in passing, ask him to give us. We just want to update our information on the leadership of the volunteer fire department. We're kind of in the door.
They'll do it.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the planning commission and the ALB. I had a call from Javier about whether there was a quorum on the planning commission. You've got ordinances for both bodies. They're both advisory bodies. By that I mean is that they're subject to your command, and you can overturn anything they do. Okay, and that's by your ordinances. There's 5 members on each body, and the quorum is a majority of 3. So, and the way your ordinances are written, they're all the members have voting rights, and seemed pretty simple to me. But then I learned that the planning commission, at least, the chairman was taking the position that the chairman could not vote. Which I felt ARB2, which I thought was different than what the ordinances command. And so,
Oh, interesting.
but I think that's really within certain parameters. I think that's ultimately a decision for the town council to make as much as anything. The mayor tells me that when he was on the planning commission chairman, he voted. I voted as chairman. So I don't know where this is coming from.
Well, it's an advisory group. It's
Yeah.
not, what the vote just says, here's what we think ought to happen. It doesn't
Exactly.
happen.
So I wanted to bring that up to you.
Yeah, I think we should stick to the ordinance. I think chairman should, or woman should be able to vote.
Well, it's up to you if you all want to do anything about it. And also, what's interesting, talking about the planning commission, not only do the planning commission members have to be residents of the town, but you have in your ordinance requirements that at least, what does it say, half the town planning commission members have to own property in the town. So you keep that in mind.
Okay.
So I think the
For planning commission.
planning
Yes.
commission.
And then ARB has some requirements around somebody licensed as an architect.
Yeah.
And it allows some flexibility with members that are outside town limits, which I'm guessing the intention is to try to get an architect in, because
No, it's not easy.
yeah, there aren't many of them.
And then today, I've got one of the more interesting problems I've had. It's something the mayor brought to me, and then I'll have to look into that. There seems to be some confusion, I'll call it that, with the state elections board as to what your charter currently says. Understand your charter is not the town council deciding what to do. It's what the General Assembly has mandated that the town council do. And for that reason, it's a general law, and it says that, at least in this cycle, the mayor and 3 members of town council are running for election in November. But that's not what the mayor was told, and, he basically tell him, you speak up if I'm being inaccurate, that you're not running for election until 2025, but, so.
So I said, well, what do we do? Not have a mayor for a year? They couldn't answer. They said, well, no, here it is, right here, black and white, state, board of elections. Your election is 2025, not this November.
Well, I looked at the paper, and it's not as clear as mud.
So we're getting it straightened out.
Yeah, it seems to me that the charter provisions control, but,
Huh,
I'll give a call tomorrow to the county attorney person who represents the registrar's office.
Mr. Mayor, though, how I would, you were to 4-year term, that you, this, that would be done, the election would be in November, you would still be there.
Whoever was, came out on top in the November election, would take over again when it first.
25, yeah.
But what they were saying to me today, and I stopped out there just to check on it to see, dates and stuff like that for things, and they said, well, you don't have an election until November 2025. I said, well, I've got, we have a mayor slot and 2 or 3 council people that are up for.
3, I've told.
yeah.
Yeah, 3.
And so it seems, I don't look forward to dealing with elections matters before. I think Mr. Bissett did, and I didn't have all that pleasant experience. But we survived. But it seems to me that this will, not only does the charter say that, but then you followed through with the State Board of Elections and said, well, is everything okay? And they wrote back and said, yeah, everything's okay.
So the lady I met,
I don't know.
really nice and helpful. She was in the dark, and she was just doing what she. So we'll get it straightened out.
Yeah, I looked at the chart. I think there's another column for 2024, which says the same thing.
Well, that's what I tried to point out to her. She said, oh, no, that doesn't apply to you.
Aren't they these 3 years seat there?
Yeah.
Alec and
Yeah.
if we so choose.
Yeah,
And I do remember last time when I went to sign up for elections, she handed me this stack of paperwork and say, you have to fill in all these financials and declare a party and all of this, and I was like, nobody else did that, but from my colleagues. She insisted, and it had to go up the chain, and it wasn't for weeks, till she came back and said, you don't have to do that. Yeah, because you're a small town under so many.
3,500 people.
Yeah, so
or
many
whatever it
people, but the county was not aware of that. They were trying to apply their rules to the town, so they're not always clear on what the rules are for the town.
I called this
I
morning,
know she's new,
I called this morning and asked
head of
about
election.
the filing date, and the gentleman couldn't tell me. So I told him,
Well, wish me luck. I'll keep you informed.
16th, I believe.
I thought it was a
It's the
15.
18th.
We're all,
But he's right.
Hang on this week.
They're not gonna be right this year.
I'll do that tomorrow
Okay, we'll get them straight.
and let you know if there's some
Fast word
problem.
this week, but if you're considering, you get on up there this next week and at least say, well, here it is, and you just keep it in file right now, so you don't miss the deadline.
But the 3 positions still need.
They need
to be
people.
ballot in November,
Yes,
and that will be for 2 years.
No, it's 4.
Everything's 4 now.
It's 4. They go 4 and 4.
Okay, it's just rotated 3 and 3. I think Stuart and I actually will retire. He took the 2 years, not 54.
Now that
Yeah.
it's close, it's 4.
Everybody's 4.
Well, not sure.
more and more news on.
Okay,
well, I'm glad we brought it up.
anything else?
No, wish me luck. I said that.
Yeah, so, I want to report on a few things. I'll start off with, what's in my town administrator report. So most importantly, I want to thank, James River Bateau Tours and the Virginia Canals and Navigation Society. They've been having conversations with me with donating a banner for Bateau Festival. So we'll attempt to put it up this week. Last week, our maintenance man notified me that he talked to the chief of police to kind of do some coordination on traffic and safety, which is very important. And just wanted to thank them for them providing us with a nice new banner for Bateau. Second one, I think I've mentioned it to council members that I've seen around. Our staff member Jam took initiative and communicated with the VDOT office and reported back to me, and Chief Jenkins mentioned this. VDOT was interested in doing some street sweeper cleaning, which would be the roads with curbs and gutters in town, in anticipation of 4th of July. Town staff has been coordinating with VDOT.
Can't we just make a special accommodation to at least go by Ed's house?
I was gonna say that.
Won't bring anything but dust.
And you get a ride code mileage. This passenger seat.
Well,
I got a wish for one day anyway.
I'll end off the top here for all the streets. We played some music for the library's 65th birthday the other day. And Mike Pruitt, our supervisor, was there, and I told him we need the street sweeper on July 4th.
There you go.
And he seemed to indicate that he was gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'll keep on top of it.
Okay, that's great.
Deputy County Administrator reached out to me already with asking information on the roads. So I'm gonna wait on getting a response back on dates, but they have the information. In both instances, town staff will need to put up proper signage to notify the community about street sweeping, no parking signs, nothing, more imaginative than that. But I want to point out, in case anyone asks, and it'll be on our social media and on our website. The street sweeper is going to be here June 24th from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30. So we'll put up stuff Friday and then get the roads cleaned on a Monday.
Javier, I like on the police department's page, kind of craft the message that you're going to put out.
I have a draft and I'll just forward it to you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I will forget if I don't. Sorry. Third one is, I received some community input on the transit occupancy tax that I thought I'd share. So followed up on the council request, and I mailed out to current business owners that would be affected by the transit occupancy tax, a short letter, just indicating that town council next week will be considering a tax increase. I had a business owner stop me on the street and we had a conversation. He seemed frustrated, but very informed, I'll put it that way, that proportionally it is a small portion of our tax base. It is nowhere clear. I mean, you have the budget in front of you closer to our big four. What he expressed and wanted, he wasn't interested in attending the meeting, but I asked, hey, could I conclude this in our staff report? That as a business owner, the town should be comparing itself to Fluvanna, which has a 5% transit occupancy tax rate, and Buckingham, which has a 2% rather than Albemarle and Charlottesville. But essentially he said, hey, it's a lot of work over a small amount of increase. And we should consider our, I guess, our market to be more reflective to Fluvanna and Buckingham. And I would agree in some instances, just seeing the people that come into town for services. That makes sense to me. Beyond that, if there's no discussion on that, I want to follow up on the police car for fiscal year 2023, project grant and loan closeout. So I met with USDA, I believe a week after our last session, so within the last week of May, and they informed me that if I had presented them with all the material for that grant loan, they wouldn't be able to reimburse us until July 2024. So this loops back into the recommendation I have to follow up next fiscal year with the remaining funding, remaining pass-through that needs to be dispersed to the fire department. But most importantly, as I stated in the staff report, I adjusted the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 to reflect that loan closeout is going to fall after July 1st. So you'll see it in this document that I printed out for you guys. And of course, you'll see it next Monday. I want to remind you all that the grant agreement, reviewing it, which is on the table over there, we received a $20,000 grant, or sorry, a $20,000 loan and $50,000 grant. So you'll see 70,000 present in this budget that I shared out. One last thing, speaking with the USDA staff, we've done this in previous years. We need to present to council as one of the requirements for the grant, a resolution for a loan, for the loan itself. It's relatively boilerplate and I could share it out with town council, but it seems prudent enough just to include it in our agenda for next week and wrap up that portion. On the previous truck, it's the same process on the previous, SUV. The 2022, 2021.
So it just needs approval
Yeah, they just need a resolution.
to award the loan.
That will take on the loan.
Right.
Beyond that, what I did with some limited time I had today, was highlight some changes since June, since May 20th. Most of the highlights I've discussed in paragraph form in writing and on my staff report or reported it out to you. On the revenue side, it's adjustments, including the facilities, the USDA grant landing next year, small increase that the chief of police informed me about our 599. The good news of a Bama Works donation landing next year, and then a stronger than expected franchise tax this year. You can compare against the old numbers, but revenue is always easy to discuss. Small changes that I've noticed is that we had an extra fee for our town code recodification that landed late in the year. So there's a small increase there. And then I have reflected for this year, and then I have reflected the Canal Basin donation included in this fiscal year's budget.
Javier, I have a question. What did it do if we don't raise the transient occupancy tax this year?
Remember,
15,000 instead of 16,500. So we have
Yeah, it was
16,500 in
only-
the budget.
That's
but
right.
we do 50.
It's only 1,500
15,000.
different. Can we, can we drop that? I don't disagree with this person's sentiment that we are not Charlottesville, we are not Albemarle, we are more rural, more akin to Buckingham or Fluvanna. And we're already at, what percentage are we at again?
We're at 8.5, so we've increased. it by
So,
a point.
do we really need to
Right.
increase a half a point again? for
Sorry, a
15
point.
A
Sorry.
point for $1,500?
Thing is, here's the different way our main thrust of this town is tourism, and I think we should be, well, with Williamsburg and Richmond and some of those tourist towns, Fluvanna's not a tourist area, Buckingham's not a tourist, so.
But we are
You know,
not a tourist
we are-
area like
We are,
Williamsburg.
no,
or-
But
they
until
have
we-
10% there,
I know,
Until
but we
we
don't
get
have
to
that.
that.
no, but I think we need to have, I think.
You don't want to
they-
snuff out our tourism business.
Exactly, Alex. I think that's a good point. Can we bring that back down and just leave it flat for this year?
It might be prudent. It might be prudent for council to has it
Discussion.
decide on it.
Yeah, right, and we can vote against it, if we're both for it.
For me, it's an easy change in our
Yeah.
budget
but
Okay,
it's,
adjustment. It's
let's just make sure we put that
Are we
discussion
voting on
on.
this ideally?
Next, we have to,
Okay.
right? It has to be,
we've hit our deadline.
yeah.
What's the status of the town trucks? I understand we ought to be looking for one pretty soon.
Yeah, so I filed a claim on the current one, which was totaled. The repair cost would be more than the 2004 truck. I haven't had an opportunity. It's been relatively busy since Friday for me. to kind of sit down and, in a sober way, I'll put it, maybe recommend about what our next path is. And then in the meantime, we still have the Colorado, but, I'll suggest to town council that maybe even in July, I'll be having discussions with you about looking into future with capital. I just haven't really had a time to even, I would discuss with Greg, with, the maintenance staff, and of course with council about, it might be a time to get an upgrade, something decent. There was a mechanical issue, and I think that's very important for us to point out, that, our aging capital can become dangerous, if we kind of leave it be. Which I,
They're in the budget,
sorry.
So,
capital.
It's not in.
No, I understand that, but in general, the umbrella, like what would
We would make
a
it,
new car fall under,
we put it under the capital line.
under capital?
I'll be, just a couple of things, I was at the farmer's market and somebody mentioned that somehow we may not be a B city anymore. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, we are a big city.
Oh, we are, okay, 'cause it wasn't, it wasn't filed, okay.
Pretty dead.
Okay, the other thing that somebody mentioned, and this has been mentioned for 2 weeks, you know, is there a way we can post the hours of operation for the town? Because they said they've been here and I was here this morning and nobody's here at 9:30.
Yeah,
So
so
I mean, maybe it could just be 10 to 5 if you guys have some flexibility, but you know, just so it's transparent that.
I got
the
thrown
hours
off
are.
this morning a little bit.
Right, and it's gonna happen, and maybe if something happens, you just post it, hey, today we're closed at 2, or, but just so people know when. And the last thing is, I've heard from several people at the front park about the, well, not only just the sign, I guess. We can't get the sign, you know, maybe we should look at another place, but the management, the manager is not there, and people are, feel like it's not being managed, you know, and that, like parking, they were saying that, you know, you're not supposed to have the people are not supposed to park there, especially if they have 2 cars. It's crowded there and just, several people said they don't feel like it's being managed, and I do think the manager should be there, you know,
Yes.
so they can hear some of these things. But I think there's some disgruntlement with the farm market and maybe cleaning it for the 4th of July and getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't, you supervise them?
Yeah,
So
so
maybe you could pass that on. She should be there on Saturday mornings to, at least
I'd have conversations, and my concern is that it might be some interpersonal, that might be a different conversation for management. But I'd rather not go
Right.
into it in a public meeting. I can follow up with anybody who's interested, of
but this
course.
is the last meeting we'll have before 4th of July, I guess. And, you know, the farmers market really, we need that needs to be, you know.
Regardless of this conversation, part of our preparation for 4th of July is always tidying up the place.
Yeah.
So it's on our maintenance staff's radar.
You know, okay.
Anything else?
If I could beg your indulgence, wasn't Amelie here to?
Yes, I wanted Amelie to talk a little bit about the free library to go.
Okay, great mind to think alike.
See everyone.
Did you?
Do you want me to grab it?
Yeah, it should be 10 minutes.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good night. Steve.
Hello?
I have some, printouts here of what the free libraries will, what I'd like them to look like. This one will go over in, Bruce Park. We were able to raise some money from the Scottsville Literary Festival back in April to, set this up, and, Alex's father has kindly offered to build this over at Bruce Park, and I think it'll be just a great addition for the town. In the back, you can see the color sample that I've chosen. It's not a very bright red. It's but it's still something that'll capture the attention, but not something that'll be too bright or, yeah, garish. And, the stain wood color is, I didn't have a printout for that, but it's like right here at the bottom. It's called, Golden Pecan. And, it's just a very light, stain wood color. And, the front page is, what it will look like.
Well, I think it's a really good idea. We, before the pandemic, went to go down to St. Simon's Island, Georgia, once a year. And there are little lending libraries all over the place, which is really nice. Our lending library up to now has consisted of that white bench down here. People play books there and they free. And, you know.
Well, we did that.
But this would be really, really nice to have, several of them around town.
Thank you.
So does this require a vote or is it, I mean, we've heard about it before. Can we just get a nod to go forward?
I think next week, ARB will present their findings and we'll make a motion for
Is there any specific location you're thinking of?
I'll have to go look at Bruce Park and see where would be the best where people can see it, but still,
it. Yeah, that will kind of like covered place right there.
Yeah.
We're there, yeah.
Underneath that would be nice, keep it out of the weather too.
And you were gonna, are there two?
I'm going to set up a meeting with, Jan and hopefully Jelani at the Boys and Girls Club maybe. I think he has his own little library that just needs, I think it needs like a new post or something. I'd like to put that at the Butterfly Garden, if that would work. So one could, if it works out, one could be for the kids at the Butterfly Garden, and one could be for YA adults at Bruce Park.
Yeah, but those.
And you're gonna have to, you're gonna be putting books in and taking them out.
Yeah, let's do it that way. ARB presents their recommendation and we'll vote on it next week.
Okay. So I will still take the lead on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. Now we're on adjourned.
Every time.
No.
Just so
You're getting a special.
Is the color of alcohol, t-shirt.
I'll let you know what happens. Okay? I'm not encouraged.
I didn't hear it.
It's recording.
Oh,